Hello, travelers. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. Come on in, take a seat, and join us as we discuss Homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. My name is Thomas the Human Bard, and I am joined today by...
Mercy the Tiefling Wizard.
And Onog the Half-Orc Barbarian.
Onog, have you seen Bean around recently?
Normally Bean's already here when I come in and get my chair, but I haven't seen them all day. I don't know.
It is weird. I could have sworn I saw something that it looked like Bean in the middle of the woods, and it was sort of like crawling on all fours, and it croaked out my name.
Oh.
But I thought it was just one of those, forest things.
Probably was.
Probably was.
Yeah.
No.
Nah, yeah, it's probably nothing.
Probably nothing.
He's probably fine.
What were you doing out in the middle of the forest earlier today?
Well, I was actually looking at something I discovered recently, which is a bunch of lithographs, stone carvings I've discovered that I believe detail an ancient and esoteric society whose very foundations we have laid our tavern upon, perhaps disturbing their ancient spirits and the dark god that once ruled them.
Cool.
But other than that, I was also just out looking for bees.
Okay.
Me and the boys out looking for bees.
You know how it is. But
Thomas the Human Bard, master of segues.
But interestingly, that looking at those lithographs did remind me of this subclass that I saw recently. and by saw recently, I mean I made it.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks. This is a first for us in the tavern, reviewing something that I have made, and I'm very anxious that you'll tell me it's very bad and mock me horribly for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we probably will.
I mean, if Bean was here, I'd be worried, but luckily I buried her. I mean, I saw something that looked like her earlier, so it's probably fine.
Wait a minute.
So
Did you say you were looking for bees?
Oh, yeah, not Bean. Bees.
Oh, okay,
That's what
yeah.
I was... Yeah, definitely. I wasn't trying to find Bean to make sure she couldn't come to the episode today and trap her in the tomb of a dark god. That's ridiculous. Why do you guys keep saying that I did that? So this is an Arcane Tradition. It's a wizard subclass that I designed because I don't find that the wizard subclasses offered in the player's handbook spark much joy. Mercy, you're saying a lot. Do you understand me in this? Do you feel the same way?
I do feel that, yeah.
Yeah. They're fine.
They're just kind of flavorless.
I'm a sorcerer on Maine, and I agree with you guys.
Yeah.
They're just they're like a recipe from like a white mom's blog. Like there's not nearly enough flavor. Where's the spices?
Yeah, okay. Sure, where's the turmeric? Not enough turmeric in them. But there is a recent Unearthed Arcana that was I very much enjoyed. It was the Order of Scribes Wizard. I'm not sure if either of you read up on that one, but it was a wizard order that wasn't one of the schools of magic, and it was interesting, and there were new concepts and mechanics thrown out, and I liked. There was a flavor to it.
Well, it's one of those things where when you break down the wizard schools or the subclasses, so to speak, there are actually only three. Mm-hmm. There is the school of blade song or whatever, blade singing from
Sword Coast, right?
Sword Coast Adventure Guide.
Yep.
There's the war wizard or whatever
Warcaster from Xanathar's.
Yes, from Xanathar's. And then there is normal wizard, which is just all the schools of magic, but you pick one.
Uh-huh.
There's just, what did you major in?
What did you major in?
What was your major? Well, I wanted to create a wizard that I felt hit a niche that was a wizard that like an archetype of fictional wizard I liked, but I hadn't really seen in D&D. There are some ways I guess you could go about it. Generally speaking, though, this had been covered by warlocks, but I wanted there to be a wizard version of it because there is, the root of it comes from Lovecraftian cosmic horror. And in those stories, there's a trope of the mad scientist or the professor who finds the ancient tome, delves too deep, and loses their mind to madness, but not necessarily meets Cthulhu, shakes hands, and is like, hey, let me worship you. Right. It just falls into
Something just broke them one day.
Yeah. Their brain is fractured, but it also like lets them see into new planes of existence and stuff. Like their loss of sanity also increases their awareness of the other like eldritch truths that exist. And I wanted a version of that for D&D because I felt like the Great Old One Warlock is more like becoming a cultist. And that's like becoming.
And this is becoming the Cthulhu hunter kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're somebody who was trying to track down and study Cthulhu, but you've studied so deep it's broken your mind, and you've been awakened to the eldritch truths, and that harms you and makes you act irrationally, but it also grants you great power.
This reminds me. There's a British TV show called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, where it's about like wizards studying things, and at one point during the show, Jonathan Strange, who's like this incredibly potent wizard, but he picks up things kind of on the fly and just kind of learns and adapts, and he's developing like new magics and stuff like that. And one of the things he realizes, in order to like force a fey patron to appear before him, because he knows how to summon it, but he doesn't know how to see the fey patron. He has to go insane. He literally has to develop madness, and once he develops madness, like the fey cannot hide from him. And so he can see them wherever they are. And so it's kind of like a cool trick where he like drives himself intentionally insane so that he can gain more power and knowledge and things like that.
Definitely. That's really interesting. One of the things that I enjoy about the archetype is the sort of the zany nature of like a kooky mad scientist person who like rants and raves but is also very insightful. I wanted to stay away as much as I could from real mental health issues and also there are mechanics in some books, for some D&D books, for like madness and stuff, but I've always been kind of dissatisfied with them. So instead of doing anything like that, giving you a madness scale or anything along those lines, I'm just, in this document, as we'll see, I give you some abilities that encourage you to act in ways that come off as mad. But in your own flavor, you can decide how that seems to your friends. Like, the abilities encourage you to do things that are risky or unsafe or don't make much sense, but that they then benefit you for doing them, as opposed to just, well, you're stuck with this random madness feature because you rolled a 5 on a madness table.
Right. That, I think, to me, personally, even calling it madness as opposed to, like, School of Insanity, like, that would make me personally more uncomfortable. That feels too, like, clinical and real. Whereas when I hear madness, and especially the way you're describing it as encouraging you to do things that are risky, it makes me think of a British person being like, "You're mad! You can't pull off a prank like that! Headmaster will catch you!" Like, it feels more like you're just a wild card.
Instead of being like a very
It feels more
sad...
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, very, very much
Instead of like a sad reality.
Instead of the sad reality of like how people with mental health disorders are treated in real life. Yeah, definitely. So let's get into the subclass. Arcane Tradition, School of Madness. In your studies of the arcane, you've discovered knowledge that was best left undisturbed. Perhaps you delved too deep into forbidden tomes until a singular moment of comprehension expanded your mind and cast your sanity adrift upon the stars. Perhaps you discovered an artifact of ancient magics that whispered into your dreams and led you slowly down the umbral path of eldritch knowings until you could no longer separate reality from nightmare. Whatever the case, your understanding of spellcasting will be forever changed. I've also tried to include as much Lovecraftian adjectives and language in this document as I could, so that'll be fun.
As much terminology.
Just a bunch of thesaurus pages that I
do have to say, I do like kind of staring me in the face. One of the footnote boxes just is titled non-Euclidean ?
Yeah, we'll talk about that one. So, Mad Savant. Beginning when you select this school at second level, you gain fluency in deep speech, which in D&D is like, that's what the far realm
and stuff speak in.
Yeah, things from the far realm speak. And a secret written language known as Eldritch Script. You also lose the ability to write in a succinct or coherent manner. It takes you twice the time it would take others to convey the same thing in writing unless you use eldritch script. This affects your ability to copy spells into your spellbook. It takes twice as long to copy a spell into your spellbook unless you copy them in eldritch script. If you copy a spell into your spellbook using eldritch script, it does not require any gold to do so.
I like how that's incentivized.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So
you want to be writing it in eldritch script, yeah.
You want to be writing it in eldritch script. If you're not using eldritch script, you have like an anti-major in every field of magic. But if you write it in eldritch script, you have a wizard book that is dead unusable to any other wizard unless they are also mad.
Exactly. Which, the thing is, this wouldn't exist in a vacuum. If you were playing in a Lovecraftian game, probably you'd have some of the enemy wizards also
know
be
this,
mad,
yeah.
and so there would be a game of like, I should write this one in eldritch script so that I can hide it from certain people.
Yeah.
But you'll also find that there are some negatives for eldritch script as well. So in a box, we've got eldritch script. Eldritch script is a unique written language. It uses a variety of characters, symbols, equations, and glyphs to convey meaning otherwise impossible to convey. The script often meanders around the page in curling and spiraling forms, often changing calligraphy style from one word to the next. Any creature who is not fluent in eldritch script that attempts to read it must succeed on a DC 10 Wisdom saving throw, or take 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on ability checks for the next minute.
Makes your brain
And
bleed a little.
And so that's not to successfully read it. That is to just not take the damage.
Yeah, correct. You don't understand it still.
You still don't get it, but
this is for...
you didn't hurt.
This is for every party. There's always the one where it's, I'd like to try to discern what this script is, even if it's a language I don't understand. Can I make some sort of arcana check on it? I want to do my very best to start learning it. No.
And this is when the book fights back.
Yes, the book fights back. But also, if this wizard was an enemy, if this is used as sort of the class for an NPC that the DM is running against your party, you find their spell book and you're like, oh dang, it's an eldritch script. Because it is a secret written language, in my premise for this was in D&D there are a few secret languages. There's the Druidic language and there's Thieves' Cant. The thing is, those are not impossible for anyone else to learn. You just would have to find a way to learn it outside of the, like, mechanics of the game. Like, you can always technically try to learn a new language in your downtime and whatever, but it would take a long time, a lot of effort to do so. You could work with your DM on slowly learning a new language. But certain classes get it by default. So as a wizard, you could get this eldritch script by default. But theoretically, this just introduces it as a new language that anyone could learn with enough study. And so your party, if they're spending time on learning it, they could, every time they try to learn and read it, they might have to take the psychic damage. But slowly over time, they become more fluent and eventually they stop taking that damage. And that's supposed to imply the flavor of they're losing their sanity enough to not take the damage anymore as they become fluent in the language. So it's also just adding a new language to the languages allowable in the D&D sphere of languages is the concept. Esoteric Fragment. This is the one I think I'm the most happy with. Using the new understanding you gained of tenebrous truths, you have crafted an object of unspeakable abnormality called an esoteric fragment. This esoteric fragment may take any form typical of an arcane focus, only it is etched with symbols in eldritch script and has certain non-Euclidean properties. While you're holding this esoteric fragment, it grants you the following benefits. You can use the esoteric fragment as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. Good. When you cast a wizard spell, you may choose a creature you can see within 30 feet of you. That creature must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failure, the creature takes psychic damage equal to 1d10 plus your wizard level.
Woo.
On a success, you take psychic damage equal to 1d10 plus your wizard level.
Oh, okay.
Final property. You have resistance to psychic damage.
Oh, okay.
If necessary, you can replace the esoteric fragment over the course of a short rest by etching Eldritch Script onto a suitable object. At the end of the rest, the object gains the strange non-Euclidean properties unique to esoteric fragments. If the previous esoteric fragment still existed somewhere, it folds in upon itself, vanishing into nothingness.
All right.
Okay. So.
And I presume this also takes place at second level?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Oh, I guess I did forget.
Yeah.
Ahaha! I got you.
This is the secondary second level ability. You're correct. I would need to write that in. So, you get a new focus, and the big thing of this focus is whenever you cast a wizard spell, notably, it does not need to have a spell slot, so cantrips do count. You can choose to have a creature you can see within 30 feet of you make a wisdom saving throw, and then if they fail, they take 1d10 plus wizard level damage, but if they succeed on that saving throw, you take
start
that
taking the
damage.
damage instead.
Which is halved.
Which is halved
yeah.
because you also have resistance to psychic damage while holding your fragment. But you see where I'm going with, this is going to encourage you to be a very risky player. Because sometimes, like, it's super easy. You can cast light and also maybe deal, like,
Maybe
Eldritch
make a bat
Blast
explode.
damage. Yeah. But maybe make yourself explode. So you always have to be considering, is this worth it? With whatever spell I'm casting on my turn, I'm going to cast True Strike. You know, my favorite spell. I'm going to cast...
favorite spell that everyone should always cast.
I'm going to cast True Strike, but is True Strike a lot better if it also is Eldritch Blast? I'm going to cast True Strike. Should I risk it right now? Then you look at your hit points, and you go, maybe it is. Maybe you can take that damage right now. And maybe you think they'll probably fail. And that means that you'll act in this sort of wild card way, where sometimes you just knock yourself out mid-battle because you went too mad. You pushed the brink too far.
You went too far.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is you become infinitely more dangerous to creatures with low wisdom scores.
Oh, definitely.
So if you're fighting a coven of druids, like, yeah, you don't want to be doing this. But if you're already fighting mad cultists, then you can start taking guys out like it's nobody's business.
Exactly.
That's really good, flavor-wise.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
The lower wisdom they have, the better you are against them. And so, yeah, I really enjoy that. It's like highly insightful creatures that understand the nature of the universe. They aren't as affected by you being like, it's all a simulation. They're like, yeah, I know.
I'm aware. That doesn't mean anything.
We live in a hologram, of course. Okay, so the box, non-Euclidean. This was just to qualify, in case someone was unfamiliar with what non-Euclidean means. Esoteric fragments seem to exist partially in dimensions beyond our comprehension. For example, a wand of coiled bone might twist in uncanny dimensions impossible to trace from tip to handle. A crystal may have a spiral fracture held within it that makes the crystal seem deeper than should be possible for its size. The unsettling nature of these objects is only obvious upon close inspection.
I like that it's not so obvious, and it may be that if just like the tavern keeper, some random person sees it, they might be a little uncomfortable, but they don't really even know why.
They're not sure what about your wand made them uncomfortable, but then upon looking at it, they're like, wait a minute.
It just makes people blink.
Wait a minute, it's made of fractals.
Your magical focus is just like what is it? It's a Escher painting?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, my concept was it could be one of those like optical illusion impossible shapes, like that weird triangle where like every side is the front side, and it's like
or the elephant with the feet that don't match where its legs are.
Exactly. So you hold it for a second, they go, yeah, it's just an elephant, and they go, wait, but where are its legs? And then they take 1d10 plus your wizard level damage. Yeah. That's the flavor behind the effect, right? But it also. This is definitely a wizard subclass that's going to make you, like, you deal a lot of damage, and you deal a lot of psychic damage specifically.
That's cool.
Like,
this is already like kind of just starting as a bit of a blaster caster just because of that one ability.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
It's sort of blaster caster, also blast yourself maybe.
Blast yourself into the past.
Blast everybody.
Yeah. Cosmic Revelation. Starting at 6th level, whenever you deal psychic damage to a creature, that creature reels from a sudden moment of clarity of their frightful position within the terrifying vistas of reality. At the start of its next turn, the creature uses all its movement to move in a random direction. To determine the direction, roll a d8 and assign a direction to each die face. The creature also does not take an action this turn. Once a creature has been affected by this feature, they're immune to its effect for the next 24 hours.
Oh, okay. So they don't even need to...
Nope.
There's no save
There's
to make,
no
but
save,
they can
it just
only
happened.
happen once.
But you see, here's the combo. Here's the wombo combo. Here's why there's no save. It's anytime a creature that you deal psychic damage to, including yourself. So if you risk it for the biscuit on your esoteric fragment and you say, take my psychic damage, and they pass their save, and you get hit, you're stunned for a turn and walk in a random direction. And maybe you just walk right off a cliff.
I kind of love that. Your kooky wizard casts a spell and is like, ha-ha! And then just starts muttering incomprehensibly as they just, like, wander off into the woods, and you're like, okay.
Is he coming back? Is he
What's
okay?
going on? I think also having there not be a save here, because a lot of the time, if not most of the time that you're dealing psychic damage, it's going to be because you use your esoteric fragment. So there already was a save, and to add another one would be clunky.
Definitely. Exactly, yeah. Normally, psychic damage is based off of a save at some point, so they've already failed that save. I didn't want to tack a save on top of a save. Make it really clunky. But it is a very good and powerful ability. If you hit, like, a dragon with 1 point of psychic damage, this just happens to it. And it's out for that turn, and it moves in a random direction, which might be beneficial to you. But
might be very squishy for you.
Might be very squishy for you. But it is a once, because then they are immune to it for 24 hours. So you get it the one time, but then they go, you can't fool me again. I've already seen the Eldritch Truth today.
Yeah, people could just run, like, directly into a wall and take bludgeoning damage, or jump off a cliff, like you're saying, run into the river.
This is good if you're playing in one of those really dramatic boss rooms where there's, like, lava on every side or something like that.
It's good or very bad.
Or very bad, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
It hits you and you're like, well, guys, I walk into the lava.
If you're like a
Somebody
madness
catch
wizard,
me.
it's like I walk up to the edge of the lava, I pull up my robes and do a perfect swan dive into the lava.
Well, everyone, goodbye. Yeah, this is based a little bit off of a couple of different spells and abilities that I've, like, rigged together into this sort of... I wanted these ways to, imply madness and losing your grip on reality for a moment without saying, like, you gain madness points or something. So it's like, being stunned for a round because you're in awe and running in a random direction because you can't control your own body. I felt, to me, like, exhibited that sort of flavor of, like, oh no, my mind! And then they run off into the woods. Yeah. All right. Inexorable Presence. Beginning at 10th level, whenever you cast a spell written in your spellbook in Eldritch script using a wizard spell slot, okay, that's a lot, but yes, you become host to the blasphemous power of the text. Glowing spectral symbols swirl in the air around you until the start of your next turn, casting dim light in a 10-foot radius. Any creature within the light cast by these symbols has disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. Additionally, it now takes you twice as long to convey ideas through the spoken word, as your speech is interrupted by ravings, gibbering, and uncomfortable drawn-out pauses.
I love that.
So
Is that when the ability takes place, or just in general?
Just in general.
All the time.
Okay.
So you've now lost your ability to write normally and speak normally. You now have to take twice as long to convey information through speaking or writing. Yeah. So the thing about the symbols swirling around you, they make people have disadvantage on saving throws, which may be important when you're trying to get your psychic damage to go off.
Does that include you?
Yes.
I presume it does. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it doesn't.
I think you're within the light you're casting.
Correct.
Yeah. So now it's even riskier.
Yes.
Wait, no, because you don't make the save.
Well, no, but you still have it on. No, yeah, that's not riskier, but you are going to
if something is targeting you before you can get your own spells off, you now can't make saving throws or ability checks, so you can get grappled, you can get banished, you can get it's pretty.
As far as playstyle, it disincentivizes your party to be near you, which
Yes.
I think works
Mm-hmm.
flavor-wise.
Yes.
So like, don't stand too close to
Yes,
that guy.
exactly, correct.
But and it also
Get away from
incentivizes
him.
you to run headlong at your enemies, which also works really well.
Which is also not a good idea for a wizard in general.
Exactly. It's not good for a wizard. But the idea was that you're going to kind of want to be nearby. You're not going to want to sit at the very back of the party and shoot spells over their heads. You're going to want to run in because you're mad. But this is for when you get surrounded by a group of smaller, like, you know, skeletons or whatever who are just going to do melee attacks against you, and you need a bit of a panic button on your way out. You can give them all disadvantage on their attacks, and you can just wait there and be like, someone come help me, please. Like, shoot them or something. And they could stand outside of the light and hit them while they're within the light.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things, too, where it's like you want to run as close as you can to the enemies, and they probably feel the aura and go, ew, no, I don't want to be here, like, and try to run away from you.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a weird game of tag with the wizard.
Especially if you can get them to move random directions with your ability. Yeah. And so this is it's going to be very disruptive, which was the goal. You disrupt the battlefield. People are moving in new directions. People are wasting their turn and walking into the lava. It just goes kind of crazy. Like, that was the whole vibe I was going for.
So this does make it so that you yourself have disadvantage. I believe spell attack rolls count as attack rolls.
They are.
Yeah, they are attack rolls. So
it disincentivizes
you wouldn't be firing off firebolt. You'd be
No.
casting multiple... You'd be wanting to focus on things that force saving throws.
Right.
Or, hear me out, you would just be casting Prestidigitation and then hitting them with your psychic damage ability from Esoteric Fragment, which does not require an attack roll from you, and neither does Prestidigitation.
You're just making coins appear in your hands while people take psychic damage.
I mean, it would probably be something like flavorful, like you'd be prestidigitating like tentacles out of the air or something like that as you're driving them all mad. Eyeballs appearing in your hands, you know.
No, the more mundane it is, the more interesting I think I find it.
You're just doing that. You're doing that thing where you're pulling a bunch of flags out of your sleeve.
People are just screaming.
People are like tearing their hair out in madness.
You're just all you're doing is like the cut off thumb trick. And the barbarians in front of you scream in terror as their eyes begin to bleed.
Flee.
That's so funny.
Flee from him. So here's the thing about it, and this is a little bit finicky, and I want to hear both of your ideas about this. This isn't an ability you can just start like once per long rest or something. This occurs when you cast a spell that is written in your in Eldritch script in your spellbook that uses a spell slot. So this gives you some incentive to swap out what spells are written in Eldritch script and what spells aren't written in Eldritch script, because it doesn't say can.
It does happen.
It does happen. So if I don't want this to occur, I need to cast a spell that's not written in Eldritch script in my book. Otherwise, it will occur every time I cast a spell from my spell list. If I wrote all of them in Eldritch script.
This also doesn't trigger when you cast a ritual spell, so you can safely cast, detect magic or augury or things like that.
Which is why it hooks into being a wizard. Yeah.
Really, you'd only want this to apply to combat spells. You wouldn't want.
You don't want this going
to
off randomly.
Go off outside.
But also,
you don't
it's
want
kind
this.
of hilarious.
You don't want this to happen on Charm Person, like.
No, definitely. But it is also kind of funny when you like accidentally painted yourself into this corner, and you're like, the only spells I have right now, like I technically did write Charm Person in Eldritch script because I didn't.
So this goes off.
I didn't have the gold to write it in otherwise, so I wrote it in Eldritch script to get around that.
Here's a question as far as the order that things go off.
Yeah, let me know.
So if this goes off because you cast a spell that requires a saving throw, and to someone who's 10 feet away from you, they're within the light, do they have disadvantage on that saving throw to the spell that triggered it, or is it after
the spell has happened?
I think it would apply immediately.
No, I don't believe so.
Because it's when you cast a spell.
Yeah, because I've already cast the spell to trigger this, so the casting of the spell has already occurred.
But it doesn't say after you cast a spell. It says when you cast a spell.
But that means like the spell has to be cast for this to happen.
I
This doesn't happen simultaneously.
See, to me, it reads like it happens
Yeah.
simultaneously.
I think, a little bit more clarity on the wording there.
Sure thing. Because normally
That's on my end, like, I feel like it could be interpreted either way, especially with the way that I know this isn't a reaction, but the way that the rules for opportunity attacks and like how Sentinel works.
Sure.
And reactions are worded as when this happens.
Yeah.
Do this. So it sounds like I don't
I can workshop it a bit.
necessarily mind it being concurrent because that makes it very strategic.
Yeah,
it really makes anything that requires a saving throw much better.
Yeah.
Because you're also automatically giving them disadvantage.
It does also lower the risk because you can just automatically give someone disadvantage before they have a chance to. This basically is the 10th level wizard version of reckless attack.
Kind of, yeah.
It's reckless saving throw instead.
Yeah, it was wizard reckless spell save. Yeah, for sure.
I was thinking this is sort of the berserker wizard.
Kind of in a way. It was I was looking at some of the berserker spells berserker abilities because that is sort of the vibe I wanted. I wanted a wizard who is very reckless and acts like not a normal wizard does. A normal wizard is contemplative, sits at the back, chooses the best thing, casts haste on the barbarian, shoots a magic missile or two, maybe a fireball when the times are tough. But I wanted this wizard to be the one where combat happens and they like walk right up to the guy and start talking to him about their dark god that they've been studying, and he goes mad and they chase him off of a cliff as they
Have you met our Lord and Savior Yog-Sothoth?
Yeah.
He is the gate and the key.
As they run through the enemy ranks, like screaming their heads off about the realities of the universe. And that was the vibe. So it is very like berserker wizard in a way. All right, the final ability, Perfect Correlation of the Mind. At 14th level, you have been pushed beyond the brink of sanity into the enveloping embrace of the abyss. Having glanced behind the curtain of your reality and correlating all of your mind's contents, you lose the ability to see normally, but gain blind sight up to 300 feet. Your Inexorable Presence feature now affects any creature who can see the spectral symbols swirling around you instead of those within their light.
And you can't see it anymore. Interesting.
Yes. So there's a little bit of a problem, and I need to find out the wording. The goal of it was exactly that. That was the goal of it, was now you're immune, but now you're more of a risk to your party, who have to purposefully say, I don't look at him. But the problem is I need to find a way where it still functions with the esoteric fragments, a creature within 30 feet of you that you can see. Because I want it to be, you can still do that.
Well, because blind sight does technically mean you can see. Because it is just a different version of seeing.
Definitely.
Basically.
And so I was trying my best to find a way where the symbols are something that a blind-sighted person couldn't see, but that a sighted person could. I don't know if there's a way to run that knife's edge of definition, but that was the goal. We'll see if there's comments talking about how that's impossible. But yes, the idea was you become immune to that effect, but also you're blind now because you have lost your mind entirely. You've lost your ability to speak normally, your ability to write normally, and now even your very sight itself. And this was also from the classic, like, when you look into the abyss, you are now blinded because you have seen too much.
And yet you see more clearly than ever before.
And yet you see more than ever before. Now, the second half of the ability. When you cast a wizard spell that deals damage, you can change the damage type of the spell to psychic damage. The spell must be written in your spellbook in eldritch script, and you must cast the spell using your esoteric fragment as the arcane focus.
That's very powerful.
Yeah, you can do
so now we have psychic fireball.
Yeah, psychic meteor swarm.
That also makes all the other abilities go off.
It also, trips all of your other abilities at the same time. Maybe they also lose their turn and run in a random direction and have disadvantage on everything. Yeah, by the end you were supposed to be sort of a madness black hole, but also I feel like you'll eventually die at your own hand at some point. Like that's sort of the goal.
Is definitely that.
Yeah, that's sort of the goal, is by like 18th level your wizard has accidentally killed themselves somehow.
I have one minor note and
Yes.
one question.
Sure.
Minor note. Under Inexorable Presence, I just think it might read a little bit more smoothly if you flip it around so that it says beginning at 10th level and
You
now
now
takes
take
you
twice
twice
as
as long. Additionally, whenever you cast a spell, because then people won't be like, oh, is that only when I...
You're right. You're right.
So I think that's a little smoother.
Fair feedback.
And then for perfect correlation of the mind, this last ability here, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
But my question is that too frustrating for the rest of the party?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I don't
And that's
know.
something I wanted feedback on. Yeah, because I wanted it to be that there's no, there was a 10-foot radius originally, and now it's like it's so powerful that everyone else who is even in your presence, it happens to, but now you are immune to it. But I wanted it to be also risky that like your party could get hit by it because you're a crazy wizard. But I agree, there's a danger of being a setback to your party.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you're the darkness, devil's sight warlock combo, but 10 times as potent and as annoying, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say this does make like party play a little weird. The other part of it too is that line of sight isn't really a thing in D&D anymore. There's stuff in the Dungeon Master's Guide for like alternative or like variant rules for line of sight stuff, but it's not like in D&D proper.
Correct.
The only scenario I think you get where line of sight or being able to see something is important or changes how you fight stuff is when you're fighting like Medusas. Or things like that have like the ability, if you look into their eyes, you turn to stone, unless you say that you're not looking at them, and then that comes with different penalties.
Yep.
So the answer, the question, the further question to this is, how does your party say they're not looking at you?
Yeah.
Are there, and what are the penalties for doing so?
Definitely.
So this also means that like anytime anyone wants to look at you, they always have disadvantage on all attacks, ability checks, or skill checks, and saving throws. That honestly might be a little too powerful, even though this is like the capstone for the subclass. Mm-hmm. Just a blanket statement of anyone looking at me has disadvantage at all of the things the game is about.
Yeah, definitely.
I love this idea though of like growing in unmeasurable power and things like that, but I wonder if there's a different way we can get the same effect or the same basic concept, but in a more flavorful or like niche scenario, as opposed to just looking at you or something like that.
Yeah.
So here's an idea.
Okay.
What if instead of it being that now it still casts light in a 10-foot radius and it's anyone who can see it. What if instead it either drastically increases the radius, so people can get out of the way, or what if it what if it was like a cone effect where it was like within a cone X size, voices and symbols swirl in the air and anyone within it
maybe is
affected.
I think what you're saying with maybe what I really wanted or what I was aiming for was a bigger radius, but then just put in a line saying you are immune to its effect now. Like, because I was trying to get around that in a very clever way of being like, haha, but now you don't see it, but they can see. But maybe what I really just want to do is saying it now sheds dim light into a 30-foot radius, but you are now immune to its effect. And maybe that's what I really was looking for, just so that it affects more people more often. Everyone wants to stay further away from you. That's their goal.
But maybe your barbarian's like, I can take it, and they stay in the fight. And
maybe, yeah. But the idea being it's just more, and then you also have the blind sight allowing you to bypass some restrictions of other stuff. Because now there's also all these benefits of blind sight, like you're not affected by magical darkness anymore, like all kinds of stuff.
I like the inclusion of blind sight. I think 300 feet might be a bit extreme, but I do understand that is like the range of
seeing
of spells and stuff like that.
Yeah. But, there are some spells that want to be pretty far away, and it would be frustrating to not be able to cast them anymore just because you can't see that far.
Just because you got to level
Right.
14.
Yeah.
The other thing too about this, you mentioned like with the barbarian going like, I'll fight through it and I'll just go up there. This does also abruptly shift the wizard's tactics. Because like we were saying before, the early levels want the wizard to kind of be up front and centered, messing with the guys.
Sure.
Messing with your opponent. But now, with the way that the wizard is changed by just this one ability, adjusting all of its previous abilities, now they just want to be in the back like a normal wizard again, and none of the party are looking at them so that they can do their stuff. It kind of resets them back to a normal wizard, but now they're doing extra psychic damage to people. Kind of
fair enough. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think to keep the line of the flavor going, it needs a bit of rework to make sure that its final ability keeps you in the niche of you run into them and start screaming your head off, and you want to be within 30 feet of people so you can all of your abilities can be going off as you are nearby them, as opposed to sitting at the back shooting psychic fireballs over the heads of your party. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's a good feedback.
I almost want it to be more like Medusa, where it is about like locking eyes with someone and it can't look away, and as they go mad staring into the windows to your distorted soul.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe. I think that there's something here with my goal really was the biggest benefit of this final one is blind sight, and is you get to deal psychic damage with every spell now. Which just benefits you in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, I like that part of the capstone. The other thing that we've kind of talked about on previous episodes, where I like it when certain abilities adjust previous abilities that you've had.
Yeah.
But when every kind of
just references
new ability just adjusts your previous ability, it feels kind of weird and kind of stale almost to a certain point. And like I said, like this adjusts it massively to the point it changes your behavior as a character.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I think having the capstone be something that adds something new as opposed to just adjusting how things that you've done before work.
That's fair. That's very fair. I tried to do that with the earlier abilities where all of them on their own are a full ability, but then you notice one or two spots where they technically hook into the other abilities.
Where they technically interact. Yeah. And that's what I love. I love the synergy between leveling abilities. Yeah, especially with the 6th level and 10th level stuff. But yeah, I think finding a space where you can kind of get what you want without just simply modifying how previous spells and abilities work, I think you can get to a much better place.
Definitely, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for your feedback. Listeners, if you have feedback, please leave it below. Comment on the video what your feedback is. What do you think our capstone ability should be for this subclass? Let us know your ideas, your designs. What did you enjoy about this? What can I improve on my next homebrew that I designed? Let us know below what you liked about it. Remember to like the video and subscribe for future Dungeons & Dragons homebrew discussion content.
If you leave your comment in Eldritch script, please be considerate of the fact that will harm the rest of the people in the comment section, so just be considerate.
And with that in mind, don't do it on purpose.
Definitely. And if anyone sees Bean out there, don't tell the others where you saw her. I'm hiding her. You can't have her. She's buried. You'll never find her. Yog-Sothoth made me do it. I have to protect the secret. Keep on adventuring.